Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Rican on Sports podcast. I am your host, I am the Big Rican. Today is Saturday, June 19th, 2021. So let's get something out of the way right away. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there in the listening audience, especially my dad. If you heard me do the Father's Day episode 2 years ago, the first Father's Day I did one, he taught me everything I know. And I wouldn't be half the person I am today without the guidance and the wisdom that he gives. And I wouldn't be a lunatic Met fan without him either. So there's that too. So on tonight's show, we're going to get into those New York Mets. As you see, I have the colors on the top, but the colors on the bottom are where we're going to end the show. And that, of course, is this. That's right, sports world. It has been 5 years to the day since the kid from Akron kept his promise and brought the long-sought-after title to the North Coast and Northeast Ohio and Cleveland as the Cavaliers shocked the 73-9 Golden State Warriors by being the first and still only team to come back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals to win a championship. So we're going to get into that at the end. So right now, I want to talk about the New York Mets. Now, real quick, split of the doubleheader today against the Washington Nationals. As it stands, the New York Mets have a 4-game lead in the National League's Eastern Division, 6-4 in their last 10. Look, 3 out of 4 against the Cubs, and if you get at home, and if you get a split in D.C., you go home for 4 against Atlanta, where you can make some more hay against teams that are chasing you. So right now, here's what it looks like. The Mets are the only team above 500 in the National League East. 8 games over at 36-28. The Phillies are at 500 at 34-34. Atlanta at 32-35. The Nationals 32-36. And of course, the Marlins at 31-39 round out the 5-team division that a lot of people thought was Atlanta's to lose, except me, because I thought with the moves the Mets had made in the offseason, they were going to be the team to beat in the National League's Eastern Division. Now, having said that, let's go over a couple of things that have happened that we didn't see coming. As I said when I was on the Family of Baseball podcast with Willie and Nat, if you'd have told me at the beginning of the season that the New York Mets would be in first place and have one of the larger leads in divisional play, they now have the second largest lead, as the lead of the Boston Red Sox and the Tampa Bay Rays has grown to 5.5 games over the New York Yankees. If you had told me that and then said, oh, by the way, at one point in time, 17 guys are going to be on the injured list, I would have given you this look. If you had told me that and then told me Kevin Pillar was going to take a 94-mile-an-hour fastball in the face, come off the bench, off the deck, and start hitting at a clip he's never hit before, I would have given you the same look. If you'd have told me the Mets would have gone the majority of their season, no Jeff McNeil, no Michael Conforto, no J.D. Davis, and no Brandon Nimmo, I'd have told you this team cannot be in first place without all its pieces. If you'd have told me that Jose Peraza and Jonathan Villar and Albert Almora and Billy McKinney and Tomas Nido and James McCann will play first base because Pete Alonso was hurt, and this team would be in first place, I probably wouldn't believe you, and I'm as big a psycho Met fan as they come. My parents put up a thing on Facebook today wishing me Happy Father's Day, and said the only thing he loves more than the Mets is his family, and that's true. It's family, Mets. That's how it goes. So to see what this team has done, not at full strength, to see what this team has done with next to nothing out of Francisco Lindor, to see what this team has done with Joey Lucchesi, who was supposed to be a fill-in, having to pitch every 5th day, to see David Peterson struggle, to see Jacob deGrom coming out of starts, left, right, and center, to see what Taijuan Walker has brought, to see how well Marcus Stroman has pitched, to hear that both Pete Alonso and Dom Smith would not get hot. I'd have told you were crazy that this team was going to be in first place, but here we are, 4 games up, in the middle of a death knell of a situation. Because of COVID and rainouts, the Mets have 33 games in 31 days leading all the way up to the All-Star break. 4 in Washington this weekend with a doubleheader today. 4 at home against Atlanta. Then 4 against Philadelphia. All these doubleheaders in there. They don't have an easy road. If you go to their upcoming schedule, they are actually, I mean, it's going to be crazy. So you got the 4 against the Washington Nationals this weekend. You got 4 against Atlanta starting on Monday, 4 against Philly starting on Friday. What was supposed to be a day off on the 28th is now in Washington at 7 o'clock. Then you go to Atlanta for 3, home for the Yankees 4th of July weekend, home for Milwaukee and Pittsburgh, and then you go into the All-Star break. Just a reminder while I'm thinking about it. Tone, Alex, and I will come to you over the All-Star break and bring you a special baseball edition of the Big Rican on Sports podcast. Haven't decided if it's going to be live or not yet, but we will come to you with that episode. So until really Pittsburgh, the Mets are playing nothing but contenders. I said with Willie and Nat, if they went 22-11 over that 33, they could go into the All-Star break with a 10-game lead, and it wouldn't be breaking a sweat. That's how insane this could be for this team. Having said that, they need to get out of their own way. A team that had been hitting like crazy all of a sudden turned it off. Shut out 2 consecutive nights, 2-0 by Kyle Hendricks and the Cubs on Thursday, and 1-0 last night by the Nationals. Tough road to hoe. They won game 1 today because Francisco Lindor went off. Absolutely off. Drove in all 5 runs, hit 2 2-run bombs, and a base hit to drive in David Peterson, who, by the way, got his first big league hit today. So good for him. Listen, am I upset with where the Mets are? I can't be. Not in first place this part of the season with everything they've had to overcome. If they're not careful, they could go into the All-Star break down in the division. But there's hope on the way, and hope on the horizon. Jeff McNeil is killing it in Syracuse right now on a rehab assignment. Michael Conforto will be ready next week. J.D. Davis doesn't have a timetable, but I think if you take Jonathan Villar out of the lineup, you might be stir-crazy stupid. Brandon Nimmo, his injury is not something that's going to really hamper him anymore. It's about pain tolerance. He's going to be ready soon. Right now, Carlos Carrasco should be ready by the end of July. Thor will be back in September. There is help coming, Met fans. And there is help coming in guys who have pitched in all-star games and pitched in the postseason for that stretch run. But let's get to the Met pitching real quick. Let's start with their third starter, and that is Taijuan Walker, who has been a revelation. I knew he was good. I didn't know he was this good. Struck out a career-high 12 against the Chicago Cubs the other night. Has been absolutely lights out. I mean, just unhittable at times. He had one bad start in Chicago where he got some really horrible calls. Sidebar. Anybody else sick of the umpires? I am. So Walker, great start against the Cubs. 12 strikeouts. And the thing he did in that game, which he hadn't done all year, and I've tried to watch each one of his starts. I haven't watched them all, but I've listened to a few of them, and I've watched a lot of them. He threw his two-seamer and brought it back from the inside corner to the lefty over the inside corner of the plate. And it was borderline. It was like it was watching Maddox throw that pitch. Taijuan Walker was not being Greg Maddux. Taijuan Walker was throwing that pitch, and it was emulating what Maddox used to do to lefties way back in the day. Way back in the day. My God, I'm old. Keep forgetting I was a teenager when I was 9 when Maddox came up. He came up in the late 80s with the Cubs. So Taijuan Walker has been phenomenal. Marcus Stroman has been as good as advertised. He has played good defense with one exception in San Diego. He has pitched his rear end off, a very high ground ball percentage, which is great considering the Mets are now second in the league in defensive runs saved. Something they hadn't been for many, many years because their defense has been lacking. Those are the years of Daniel Murphy doesn't have a position. Wilmer Flores doesn't have a position. We got to stick somebody at third base because David's hurt. Now they're starting to get better. Defensively, they're a better team. They just got Luis Guillorme back, who has been phenomenal defensively, and Jonathan Villar has proved he can pick it at third base. David Peterson had a couple of starts where I even said that Thomas Szapucki should be up because he was terrible. Didn't get out of the first inning in 2 straight starts. Didn't get out of the third inning in the next one. His last 2 against the Cubs the other night, he was absolutely unhittable. Today against the Nationals, a phenomenal start. Hopefully Peterson's turning the corner because I really feel that now with the injury to Lucchesi, who had to go on the IL today with some elbow issues, you need a lefty in that rotation. Yes, you can bring Szapucki up, but do you want to make Szapucki the lefty in that rotation that is competing for a chance to win a division title? I don't think he's ready for that. I think he's going to have to spot start, especially with Jordan Yamamoto on the 60-day DL with the shoulder issue. But let's get to the reason the Mets have been so good, and that is the bullpen. Now, I have been on the get rid of Edwin Diaz bandwagon for 2 years. I have said to Alex that he needs to be deported. I have said things like this because of my anger at how good he was in Seattle and how terrible he was coming over to New York. Well, Edwin Diaz stood up this year. Now, he still can't pitch in non-safe situations for whatever reason. Losing last night's game, coming in the 9th inning. Questionable move by Luis Rojas, if you ask me. Seth Lugo is back from injury, and he is as good as he was before he got hurt. Gesellman's been good out of the bullpen, mopping up and being a long man when you have a starter turn into an opener. Trevor May has had issues, but has gotten big outs when he needed it. Juris Familia has been awesome. The only bad game he had is when they left him in too long. Aaron Loup, who I'm not a fan of, has actually been pretty good. Drew Smith has stepped in and pitched really well. Sean Reed-Foley has pitched until today extremely well. The Met bullpen is what has them still really in first place. Because they're having starts where guys weren't getting out of the second, third inning, and the bullpen was coming in and slammed the door. Like, all right, get us some runs, boys, because we're going to take this right to the end. But the highlight of the Mets season has been the top of the rotation. And it has been the birthday boy. That's right. Today, 33 years ago, the birth of Jacob deGrom. I asked my father a question after his last two starts ago. And my father said something to me that I never thought I'd hear. I said, Dad, was this what it was like when Seaver pitched? And he said, this guy's better. This guy's better? Can those words even be uttered? Well, let's go into the numbers. Jacob deGrom, through these starts that he has had, has been off the charts. Through these first sets of starts, he's got a .54 earned run average. Let's put that in context. Through 9 starts, he had a .56. Bob Gibson was the lowest ERA in the modern era at 1.12, was at 1.34 through 9 starts. He has struck out 109 batters and walked 8. His whip is .5. He's 6-2, and he's had shortened starts. He was so good in that start against the Cubs before he pulled himself for the shoulder tightness. He'd gone 9 up, 9 down. He struck out 8. And by the way, he wasn't throwing 100 miles an hour. He threw it a couple times. He wasn't hitting 101, 102 like he normally was. He was striking dudes out with sliders out of the strike zone and changeups. I talked to my buddy Nick. He thinks he's trying to throw too hard. I will say this. If DeGrom took it back to 97, it sounds almost absurd. But if he took it back to 97 and he used his breaking stuff and he located how he does, he would still be what he is. 2 starts against the San Diego Padres. 13 innings pitched. 21 strikeouts. Goose egg. Goose egg. He's given up 4 earned runs this year. He's driven in 6. And he's doing that every 5th day. Imagine if he was able to play shortstop and then pitch like he did in college. He'd be Ohtani. Who, by the way, I want to see him and Pete go at it in the home run derby. Jacob deGrom has been a historical revelation. I mean, just insane. I'm going to read the numbers to you so far for this season. 67 innings pitched. He's given up 26 hits, 7 runs, 4 earned runs. His earned run average is 0.54. He has struck out an insane 111 batters. I was wrong. 111. He has walked 8. I mean, this is the guy. He is the best pitcher in baseball. He is, if he continues his current stretch, he will win the National League MVP award. Someone asked Fernando Tatis Jr. what he thought. And he said, listen, I'm having a great year. What Jacob deGrom is doing is on another level. So let's go into these 33 games. You know what? Win 18 of them. Go 18-15. You're then 13 games over 500 or 11 games over 500. And you go into the All-Star break with a lead in the division. Not going to be an easy task with all the games they have. Remember, 1 more in D.C., 4 at home against Atlanta, 4 at home against Philadelphia, 2 D.C., 2 Atlanta, 2 Yankee Stadium, and then home for Milwaukee and Pittsburgh. That gets us to the All-Star game in Colorado. Which, by the way, are we really talking about the All-Star game already? Doesn't even seem possible. So, not going to be on too long tonight, but I want to hit on my shirt. My shirt says 2016 NBA Finals champions, land of champions. Now, sorry, it looks like Thanos took out part of that. But I wore this when my wife and I went to Gettysburg that summer for our 5th wedding anniversary, and it was 95 degrees out with 100% humidity, and it was gross. I was sitting on that couch right there. My wife, who hates sports, hates them, watched every single second of Game 7 with me. It has been 5 years. The Cavaliers went to 3 more finals, not winning one, but all 4 of them against the Golden State, or 2 more finals. But all of them against the Golden State Warriors. This coming July, it will be 7 years since LeBron James wrote maybe the craziest letter in sports history. Let me go into what that title meant. The last part of LeBron's letter moved me. Now, for all you guys know, I was born in upstate New York, in the area I live in now. I moved to Northeast Ohio when I was 14. Northeast Ohio is the kind of place that gets in your blood. I only root for one New York team, and that's the Mets. It's the Cavaliers, it's the Browns, and it's Ohio State. What that title meant to me was more about my love and caring for my friends and my family members who had lived through the Cleveland curse for many, many years. I lived in Cleveland when the Browns left. I was there when they came back. I watched a floundering franchise in the Cavaliers go from the glory days of Mark Price and Brad Daugherty and Craig Elo to the what are we doing, Sean Kemp, Bobby Sura, Brevin Knight, early days as Adrunas Ilgauskas. Then LeBron was drafted in 2003, and he said he was going to light Cleveland up like Vegas. Well, it took him a lot of years. It took him 12 years and a trip to Miami, but he did it. The finals trip in 2007 notwithstanding, because that team was terrible. I mean, terrible. LeBron came home, and the last bit of his letter, in Northeast Ohio, nothing is given. Everything is earned. You work for what you have. I'm ready to accept the challenge. I'm coming home. You can't get much more workmanlike than the last three games of that finals. You go down 3-1 after a loss in Game 4. You do get a hand with Draymond Green being suspended for Game 5. I want to put something to rest right now. Draymond should have been suspended in the Western Conference Finals when he donkey kicked Steven Adams in the junk, and they should have never gotten to the finals. That should have been the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Cavs would have ran away with that series. But they got there. Draymond did his thing again. He got run. That's on Draymond. But last time I checked, Draymond played Game 6 and 7. Game 5 won for the ages, where Kyrie and LeBron become the first teammates to score 40 points apiece in a finals game together. Game 6 back in Cleveland, maybe the biggest game in Cleveland sports history. And the fans showed out. The insane asylum that was the Q that night, because it wasn't Rocket Mortgage yet, was off the charts. I have a soundbar from my television, and it was rocking my house. Then we go to Game 7. One thing you have to remember about those finals, every single game with the exception of Game 7 was decided by 15 to 20 points, if not more, as a margin of victory. These games were blowouts in this finals, and it was blowouts on both ends. The Cavaliers got run out of the gym in Game 2. They go back to Cleveland for Game 3. They win by 30. They lose Game 4 by 15. They win Game 5 by 15. They're out to like a 37-7 lead in Game 6. They hold on to win by 20-plus points to force a Game 7. Final score of Game 7 was 93-89. This was a phenomenally played game with moments and plays that will forever stick out. The things that stick out to me, besides the three I'm going to get into, J.R. Smith with 8 points to start the third quarter, and to keep the Cavs in that game was huge. On the floor, that would be the undoing of JR's career in Cleveland. Then you have the block shot, which may be the defensive play of the finals all time. Coming out of nowhere to block Iguodala against the backboard. Then you have Kevin Love's stop on Steph Curry. Say what you want about Love, what he's doing now. That was a huge defensive play. And then Kyrie hits the shot. Now, LeBron's taken a lot of heat for telling Ty Lue to put Kyrie in the pick and roll against Steph Curry. It was probably the smartest thing basketball-wise the Cavaliers could have done. Steph Curry's a phenomenal transcendent player. His weakness is his defense. Kyrie is the best handles in the league, and I can't stand him now. That was the play. That was the play. And then you have LeBron hitting the deck, hitting the one free throw to make it a 4-point lead. Everybody's heard Mike Breen's Cleveland is the city of champions once again. Everybody's heard LeBron's Cleveland, this is for you. It was before the 2018 season that the Cavaliers lost their play-by-play man on TV, Fred McLeod. Fred is a lifelong Cleveland resident. He was a Clevelander at heart. I know he worked for Detroit as well, but he's an Ohio guy. Now, I found this on Twitter today. His wife shared it. John Michael's great on the microphone, but there was nothing like Fred McLeod. Fred talking about somebody dunking the ball going right down Euclid is something I love to watch and listen to. So I'm going to play for you what a guy from Cleveland did when the Cavaliers won their championship in 2016.
Everybody stand up and cheer. It's over for 54 years. No more again. The Cavaliers step up to the plate. Kyrie Irving knocks it down. 18,801 days. And it's over. Never again. Celebrate. Go crazy. The championship is yours. It's time to everybody.
You can find that on social media. You can find it everywhere. It's all over the place. People are sharing it all over, but I wanted to play it here because it was pretty emotional. What you didn't see or hear is that Fred was crying at the end. Actual sobbing. So it's been 5 years to the day. And what's happened in those 5 years? 2 other trips to the finals and a few seasons that, well, we knew it was going to happen when LeBron left. But there's hope. A good young core led by Colin Sexton and Isaac Okoro, who was second-team All-Rookie this year, and Darius Garland, who I think should have won Most Improved, but didn't quite get there. So, yeah, 5 years. 5 years since the city of Cleveland got something they had wanted since Jim Brown was playing for the Browns in 1964. Doesn't seem real. Doesn't seem real that it's 5 years. So here's what's upcoming for Big Rican. I'm going to try and get back on the schedule. I will be on the Family of Baseball podcast with Willie and Nat once a week. We're going to do our Family of Baseball show, our extra inning show. I'm going to get you some more Mets coverage after we get through next week. In that gauntlet that's going to be 4 in Atlanta, or 4 at home against Atlanta and 4 against Philadelphia. Again, couple weeks, and we're at the All-Star break, and Tone, Alex, and I will bring you a baseball first-half wrap-up episode. The statistical first half of the Major League Baseball season will be over. I'm going to talk to the boys, but we're going to do mid-year awards. We're going to do things that have shocked us, and we're going to do what we think is going to happen in the second half of the year, and we'll make new predictions for who we think are going to get to the playoffs and ultimately win the World Series. As always, Big Rican can be found on YouTube, Big Rican on Sports, Facebook, Big Rican on Sports, Twitter, at Big Rican on Sport. We can be found on Anchor, Google, Breaker, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and you can do this. You can ask Alexa to play Big Rican on Sports. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Enjoy Father's Day to all the dads out there, especially mine. I got a cute little picture from Bobby today with his feet making a heart. So this big softy did shed a tear. The older two will be here tomorrow, and I can't wait. Have a great rest of your night, guys. Enjoy the weekend. Let's go, Mets.